The glass walls of the Galactic Council station stretched out into the endless black of space. Stars flickered in the distance like forgotten promises. Inside the massive structure, thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds moved through corridors wide enough to accommodate creatures of every size and shape. Han stood perfectly still near the entrance to Conference Hall 7. Her black uniform was simple and practical. No decorations, no bright colors, just a small patch on her shoulder that showed Earth's blue and green surface. She was not tall by human standards, barely 5 feet and 4 inches. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her face showed nothing. Not boredom, not excitement, not fear. Nothing. She watched everything. To her left, a group of clicked and buzzed to each other. Their crystalline exoskeletons caught the artificial light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. They paid her no attention. To her right, a massive delegate lumbered past. The creature stood nearly 9 feet tall, all muscle and thick gray skin. It glanced at for a moment, then dismissed her as unimportant. This happened constantly. The aliens looked at her and saw weakness. They saw a small creature with soft skin and no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armor plating, just flesh and bone and quiet eyes. They had no idea what those eyes had seen. Inside the conference hall, Ambassador Minu was finishing his presentation to the council. Could hear his voice through her earpiece. Calm, measured, diplomatic. He was asking for access to the primary faster-than-light travel lanes, the routes that connected the major trading worlds. Without them, Earth would remain isolated on the edge of known space. A backwater planet with interesting technology but no real power. And in conclusion, Minu said, humanity offers valuable resources and innovative perspectives. We seek only fair partnership in the galactic community. Through the transparent sections of the wall could see the council members. Dozens of species sat in tiered seating that curved around the central speaking platform. Some looked interested. Most looked bored. A few looked hostile. Prime was one of the hostile ones. The delegate sat in the third tier, his reptilian body coiled in his seat. His species had scales that shifted between green and brown depending on the light. His eyes were yellow with vertical slits. Those eyes were fixed on Ambassador Minu with an intensity that made instincts scream. She made a mental note, prime potential threat. The presentation ended. The council members began their murmured discussions. This was standard procedure. They would debate among themselves, then schedule follow-up meetings. Everything in galactic politics moved slowly, except when it didn't. Minu exited the hall with 2 other human staff members, fell into step behind them, maintaining a precise 3-meter distance, close enough to intervene if needed, far enough to allow private conversation. I think that went well, one of the staff members said. Her name was a trade specialist. Perhaps, Minu replied, but I sensed resistance from several delegates. The representative seemed particularly displeased, noted. Said nothing. She was not paid to offer opinions on diplomatic matters. She was paid to keep the ambassador alive. They walked through the curved corridors toward the human delegation's quarters. The station operated on a 26-hour cycle, a compromise between the biological needs of various species. By Earth time, it was late afternoon. By station time, it was early evening. As they rounded a corner, a figure stepped into their path. Prime smiled, at least assumed it was a smile. This mouth opened to reveal rows of small, sharp teeth. Ambassador Minu said. His voice had a hissing quality that the translation device couldn't quite eliminate. A moment of your time. Minu stopped, moved slightly to the side where she had a clear line of sight to both the ambassador and the delegate. Of course, Representative, Minu said with practiced courtesy. I wanted to personally invite you to a private dinner, continued. Tomorrow evening, just the 2 of us and our security personnel, of course. I believe we have much to discuss regarding your proposal. That's very generous, Minu said. I would be honored to accept. His eyes flicked to for a brief moment. Something passed through his expression. Amusement, perhaps, or contempt. Then his attention returned to Minu. Excellent, I will send you the details. The venue is called the Observation Hall. Very beautiful, you will enjoy it. Bowed slightly, a gesture he had learned from studying human customs. Until tomorrow, Ambassador. He turned and glided away, followed by his own security detail. Two larger, both carrying visible plasma weapons on their hips. After they were gone, leaned close to Minu. Sir, is a private dinner wise? We barely know him. It's a standard diplomatic gesture, Minu assured her, and it suggests he might be willing to negotiate. That's a positive sign. Watched disappear around a distant corner. Every instinct she had developed over 12 years of military service was screaming. Something was wrong. The smile had been too wide, the invitation too smooth, the glance in her direction too dismissive. Back in their quarters, filed her daily report. The rooms assigned to Earth's delegation were modest but comfortable, designed for human biology with appropriate gravity, atmosphere, and temperature. Small luxuries that reminded them they were far from home. She sat at her desk and typed quickly. Detailed observations of every interaction during the day, every face in the crowd, every unusual movement or gesture. It was tedious work, but thoroughness had kept her alive on 3 different continents and now in the depths of space. When she reached the section about dinner invitation, she paused. Then she flagged it as requiring additional security review. Her communicator blinked. A message from the intelligence analyst assigned to the delegation. He worked from the human ship currently in orbit around the station. Can we talk? Encrypted channel. She switched her communicator to secure mode and accepted the call. His face appeared on her screen. He looked tired. He always looked tired. I've been reviewing historical data on he said without preamble. Specifically, their negotiation tactics with species seeking FTL lane access. And prompted 3 incidents in the past 40 years. Species that refused terms. All 3 had their ambassadors die in accidents during private negotiation meetings. Felt her jaw tighten. What kind of accidents? Environmental failures, atmosphere processors malfunctioning, gravity generators failing, security systems going offline at critical moments. The expression was grim. In each case, the ambassador's personal security was neutralized first. Then the ambassador died. They expressed deep regret and blamed station maintenance issues. Has this been reported to the council? Yes, each time. Investigations found insufficient evidence of foul play. They have powerful allies who helped bury the inquiries. Leaned back in her chair. Ambassador Minu has been invited to a private dinner with Prime tomorrow evening. Was silent for a moment. I'll send you everything I have. Read it carefully. I will, and start monitoring all communications you can access. Look for anything unusual. Already on it. The call ended. Sat in the quiet of her room and stared at the wall. Outside the window, stars drifted past as the station rotated slowly, beautiful and cold and indifferent. She had survived firefights in desert cities and jungle ambushes. She had protected diplomats in war zones and executives in criminal territories. She had trained for every possible threat scenario that Earth could imagine. But this was different. This was an alien species with alien methods, with weapons and tactics that humans might not recognize until it was too late. Prime thought she was weak, thought she was just decoration, a formality required by human protocol. That was fine, let him think that. Opened files and began to read. She had 24 hours to prepare, 24 hours to understand the threat, 24 hours to make sure that if tried anything, it would be the last mistake he ever made. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance. Inside, a human warrior prepared for battle. The morning cycle brought artificial sunlight flooding through the station's main corridors. Had not slept well. She rarely did before a high-risk situation. Instead, she had spent the night reviewing research and running through combat scenarios in her mind. The data was disturbing. 43 years ago, the species had refused demands during FTL lane negotiations. 2 weeks later, their ambassador died when a viewing platform collapsed. Security footage showed his bodyguard being called away moments before. A malfunction in the guard's communicator, the investigation concluded. Just bad luck. 31 years ago, the delegation rejected a trade agreement. Their ambassador suffocated when the atmosphere processor in a private meeting room failed. His security officer had been outside, following proper protocol. The door sealed automatically during the malfunction. She couldn't get in. By the time maintenance overrode the locks, the ambassador was dead. 22 years ago, they refused to grant the exclusive mining rights in their system. During a diplomatic banquet, their ambassador was poisoned. His food tester had eaten from the same dishes moments before with no ill effects. The toxin was later identified as something that only affected biology. They expressed shock and sympathy. The investigation went nowhere. 3 species, 3 dead ambassadors, 3 unsolved cases. And now Earth was negotiating with the. Dressed in her duty uniform and performed her morning routine, stretches to keep her muscles flexible, a light meal to maintain energy without slowing her reactions, a final equipment check. Her sidearm was loaded with standard low-penetration rounds, designed not to breach station hulls. Her backup weapon was a collapsible baton. Her real weapons were her hands, her mind, and her training. She met Ambassador Minu in the delegation's common area. He was reviewing notes for the day's meetings, a cup of coffee steaming beside him. "Good morning," he said without looking up. "Sir, about tonight's dinner with representative." "Yes. I recommend bringing additional security personnel, or relocating the meeting to our quarters where we control the environment." Minu finally looked up. His expression was patient but firm. "I appreciate your diligence, but we cannot appear paranoid or weak. They are testing us. If we show fear, we lose negotiating leverage." "Sir, there are precedents. I'm aware of the historical incidents found. I'm also aware that none of them were conclusively proven to be assassinations." He set down his tablet. "I need you to trust my judgment on diplomatic matters just as I trust your judgment on security matters. We're going to this dinner. You'll be with me. That's sufficient." Wanted to argue, wanted to show him the files, the patterns, the obvious connections. But she was a soldier, and he was her commanding officer in all matters except direct combat situations. She nodded once. "Understood, sir." The day proceeded with scheduled meetings and courtesy calls. Maintained her position, always watching, always assessing threats. The other security personnel on the station came in every variety. Some were obviously military. Others were ceremonial. A few, like her, were quiet professionals who blended into the background until needed. In the afternoon, they attended a reception in one of the station's social halls. Representatives from 24 species mingled, making small talk and building relationships. Stood near a wall, giving Minu space to network while keeping him in her line of sight. A shadow fell across her. She looked up to see a warrior, one of the species she had observed the previous day. He was massive, nearly 7 feet tall, with a crystalline exoskeleton that looked like armor plating. "You are the human security," they said. His translation device rendered his clicking speech into flat, emotionless words. "Yes," replied. I provide security for the delegation." He tilted his head in a way that might have indicated curiosity. "Your species is new to the council. I have studied your physical capabilities. They are unimpressive." "Perhaps," said calmly. "They are warriors. We train from hatching in combat arts passed down through 3,000 generations. I wonder how human security compares." gestured to an open area of the hall. "Would you honor me with a sparring demonstration? No weapons, just skill against skill." Several nearby conversations stopped. Delegates turned to watch, felt the weight of their attention. This was a test, not just of her but of humanity. If she refused, they would see humans as cowards. If she accepted and lost, they would see humans as weak. If she accepted and won, well, that would create its own complications. "I appreciate the offer," said carefully, "but I'm currently on duty, perhaps another time." His mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Of course, duty, very professional, he leaned closer, or very cautious. He walked away. The watching delegates returned to their conversations, saw the looks in their eyes, the smirks, the knowing glances. They thought she had declined out of fear. Let them think that. Across the room, Prime was watching her with those yellow reptilian eyes. When their gazes met, he showed his teeth in that unsettling smile. Later, returned to her quarters and contacted again. "I've been monitoring communications," he said immediately. "Nothing explicit, but there's been increased chatter between staff and maintenance personnel responsible for the observation hall." "The dinner location," said. "Exactly. They've requested several routine maintenance checks on environmental systems over the past 2 days, all approved through normal channels, all perfectly innocent on the surface. Just like the previous incidents." "Just like them," confirmed. "You need to convince the ambassador to cancel." "I tried. He believes showing fear would damage our negotiating position." Was quiet for a moment. "Then you need to be ready for anything. I'm going to station Captain Lee Sara's ship closer to the station. If you send a distress signal, we can have security teams boarding in under 3 minutes. 3 minutes is an eternity in combat." "I know, which is why you need to make sure nothing happens in the first place." Paused. "These aliens have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. Use that." After the call ended, sat in silence. She thought about challenge, about smile, about the way every alien on this station looked at humans and saw primitive weaklings from a backward world. They saw her small frame and soft skin. They didn't see the muscles beneath, trained through thousands of hours of practice. They didn't see the reflexes honed in real combat against real enemies. They didn't see the mind that had been trained to assess, adapt, and overcome. They saw prey. They didn't see the predator. Humanity had evolved as persistence hunters, not the fastest, not the strongest, but the most stubborn. The species that would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The species that learned to throw projectiles with accuracy no other creature could match. The species that turned cooperation and tool-making into art forms of survival. And then humanity had spent 10,000 years fighting itself, developing combat techniques that ranged from brutal efficiency to philosophical mastery. Had studied 5 different martial arts. She held black belts in 2 of them. She had killed enemy combatants in 7 different countries before the age of 30. But none of that showed on the surface. She was just a small woman in a plain uniform, standing quietly in corners while important people conducted important business. Perfect. She spent the evening preparing. She examined the layout of the observation hall through station schematics. She identified every exit, every potential weapon, every structural weakness. She reviewed anatomy and identified the most effective strike points. She ran through scenarios until her muscles remembered the movements without conscious thought. When the preparation was complete, she sat in the darkness of her quarters and regulated her breathing. Slow inhales, controlled exhales, heart rate dropping to combat-ready levels. Tomorrow evening, Prime would make his move. She was certain of it now. The pattern was too clear, the setup too familiar. He would try to kill Ambassador Minu. He would expect her to be neutralized easily, dismissed as insignificant until too late. He would learn differently. Allowed herself a small smile in the darkness. It was not a pleasant expression. It was the smile of a hunter who had just scented prey. Let him underestimate her. Let all of them underestimate humanity. They would learn their mistake. Once, the observation hall lived up to its name. The entire outer wall was transparent, offering a view of space that took the breath away. Stars stretched in every direction. Distant nebulas painted clouds of color against the black. A nearby moon hung like a silver coin in the void. Barely noticed the view. Her attention was on the room itself. The space was circular, about 20 meters across. A single table sat in the center, already set with dishes and glasses. Soft lighting created an intimate atmosphere. The floor was polished metal that reflected everything like a dark mirror. 2 doors provided access, one from the main corridor, one leading to the kitchen facilities. She had arrived 30 minutes early with Ambassador Minu. Standard security protocol. Time to sweep the room, check the exits, identify potential threats. Everything appeared normal, too normal. Prime arrived exactly on time, accompanied by 2 security personnel. They were larger than, with broader shoulders and visible scars on their scales. Professional soldiers, not ceremonial guards. They stationed themselves on opposite sides of the room, mirrors of position near the entrance. Ambassador Minu greeted warmly. "Welcome, please be seated." The 2 delegations took their positions at the table. Minu and sat across from each other, remained standing at a respectful distance, close enough to intervene, far enough to not intrude on the conversation. "This view is magnificent," Minu said, gesturing to the stars beyond the glass. "Indeed, I thought you would appreciate it. Humans are still new to space travel, yes. Each view must be wondrous to you." His tone was pleasant, but there was an edge beneath it, a subtle condescension that suggested he was speaking to a child. Servers emerged from the kitchen, carrying trays of food, multiple dishes representing various galactic cuisines. Some were recognizable to human biology. Others were clearly meant for different digestive systems. Watched the servers carefully, 2 of them, both from the station's neutral staff. They set down the dishes and departed without making eye contact with anyone, professional, unremarkable. The conversation began: trade routes, resource sharing, cultural exchange, all the diplomatic pleasantries that preceded real negotiation. Was charming, asking questions about Earth, expressing interest in human history and development. Had heard interrogations that sounded friendlier. She divided her attention systematically. 60% on, 20% on his security personnel, 10% on the doors, 10% on Ambassador Minu. Her peripheral vision covered everything else. The guards were watching her, not constantly but regularly, assessing her, measuring her. They had the look of experienced soldiers, men who had killed before and would kill again without hesitation. They saw what everyone saw: a small human female, unarmed except for the sidearm on her hip, standing patiently while her superior dined with a potential threat. They dismissed her as irrelevant. 30 minutes into the dinner, produced a bottle from beneath the table. The container was made of some crystalline material that caught the starlight and refracted it into rainbow patterns. "I have saved something special for this occasion," announced. "A wine from my, very rare, very expensive. I would be honored to share it with you, Ambassador." "That's very generous," Minu replied. Poured the liquid into 2 glasses. It was deep purple, almost black, and seemed to glow faintly from within. He lifted his glass. "A toast," he said, "to peaceful cooperation between our species." Minu raised his glass, "to cooperation and mutual benefit." Their glasses came together with a soft chime. Saw the movement a fraction of a second before it happened. His posture shifted, the muscles in his shoulder tensed, his weight redistributed forward, his eyes fixed on a point just below Minu's jaw. The fingers of his right hand, the one holding the glass, rotated slightly inward. All of this happened in less time than a heartbeat, subliminal cues that her training had taught her to recognize, the preparation before an attack. She moved. His hand snapped forward with speed that would have impressed a human martial artist. The glass dropped from his fingers. From his ornamental ring a blade extended. It was impossibly thin, barely visible in the light. Monomolecular edge, his mind catalogued instantly, designed to slice through flesh like water. The blade drove toward Minyu's neck, aimed at the carotid artery, a killing strike delivered with the precision of long practice. His hand intercepted it. Two fingers, index and middle, closing on the blade from opposite sides with perfect timing and placement. The blade stopped cold, trapped between her fingers like an insect in amber. For a frozen moment, nothing moved. His arm was extended, his hand still completing the strike that should have killed a human ambassador. Stood beside him, her hand raised, the blade caught in her grip. Then physics reasserted itself. The monomolecular blade, designed to cut through organic tissue, encountered something it was not designed for. The specific pressure points where gripped it, the angle of force, the precision of her hold. The blade shattered. Tiny fragments tinkled to the polished floor like falling stars. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened in shock. He tried to pull back his hand to recover, to do something. Didn't give him time. Her left hand struck his wrist. The snap of breaking bone was clear in the quiet room. His hand went limp. The ring clattered to the floor. Her right hand moved to his shoulder. She stepped behind him, using his own forward momentum against him. Her foot swept his legs. He went down hard, face first into the polished metal floor. She had one knee on his spine, one hand controlling his broken wrist, the other pressed against the back of his skull before he could fully process what had happened. Total elapsed time from the beginning of his strike to his complete immobilization, 1.8 seconds. Ambassador Minyu sat frozen, his glass still raised in a toast, his expression caught between confusion and shock. The two guards finally reacted. They reached for their weapons. His free hand moved to her sidearm. "Don't," she said quietly. Her weapon cleared the holster in a smooth draw that spoke of endless repetition. The barrel tracked between the two guards with mechanical precision. Her finger rested alongside the trigger guard, ready but not committed. The guards hesitated. They had weapons too, but they were not drawn. And now this small human had the advantage. Their employer was pinned to the floor. Her gun was out. Her aim was steady. They were professionals. They understood when a situation had turned against them. Slowly, they raised their hands away from their weapons. "What?" Minyu started. "Emergency beacon activated," said calmly. Her free hand had already triggered the distress signal built into her uniform. "Station security will arrive in approximately 90 seconds. Ambassador, please move away from the table. Stand by the entrance." Minyu stood on shaky legs and moved to where she indicated. His face had gone pale. Beneath his knee made a sound that might have been a whimper. His broken wrist was held at an angle that caused maximum pain without permanent damage. An interrogation technique, precisely applied. How did you?" His voice was strained with pain and disbelief. "I saw you reach for it," replied simply. "Impossible, my species. We process movement faster than yours. Our reaction time is irrelevant if I know what you're going to do before you do it." Increased the pressure slightly on his wrist. "The ring, custom-made, hidden blade coated with neurotoxin, I assume." Said nothing. "The previous ambassadors. This is how they died, isn't it? Personal meetings, trusted security protocols, a quick strike when their guards were distracted or neutralized." Still nothing. "You made a mistake," continued. "You assumed human security would be like the others, ceremonial, symbolic. You assumed I would be slow, weak, unprepared." You are weak, hissed. Your species is soft, fragile. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no. We have something better, interrupted. We have experience. The doors burst open. Station security poured in, weapons drawn. A mix of species, all professionals, all trained for situations like this. The team leader in heavy armor assessed the scene quickly. Ambassador safe. Attacker subdued. No active threat. Secure those two, he ordered, pointing at the guards, and get medical for the prisoner. Released and stepped back, holstering her weapon. Two security officers moved in to restrain the delegate. He didn't resist. He just stared at with those yellow eyes, still struggling to understand what had happened. The team leader approached, Officer Han. Yes. We'll need your statement, and that. He pointed at the shattered blade fragments on the floor. Of course. More security personnel arrived, then medical staff, then council officials. The quiet dinner had become chaos. Through it all stood calmly, answering questions, providing details, maintaining her professional composure. But inside, where no one could see, her heart was racing. Her hands wanted to shake from the adrenaline dump. Her mind was replaying the moment over and over, calculating how close it had been. 1 second slower, half a second, that's all it would have taken. But she hadn't been slow, she had been fast enough, trained enough, ready enough. Ambassador Minyu approached her, still looking shaken. Thank you, I didn't believe you, I should have listened. You're safe, sir, that's what matters. He shook his head. How did you move so fast? How did you catch the blade? Looked at him, then at the council officials gathering evidence, then at the stars beyond the glass wall. Training, she said finally, lots of training. It was the truth, but not the complete truth. The complete truth was that humans had spent their entire existence fighting to survive, fighting predators, fighting nature, fighting each other. They had turned conflict into science and science into art. The aliens didn't understand that yet, but they were beginning to learn. The Galactic Council's emergency session, convened 12 hours after the assassination attempt, had spent most of that time being interviewed, examined, and analyzed. Council investigators wanted to know everything: how she had detected the threat, how she had reacted so quickly, how she had caught a monomolecular blade with her bare fingers without losing them. She answered their questions honestly, but she could see the disbelief in their eyes. They looked at the footage from the observation hall's security cameras over and over, frame by frame, analyzing every millisecond of movement. The footage showed exactly what had happened, but they still didn't believe it. Now she sat in a small waiting room adjacent to the main council chamber. Ambassador Minyu was inside, giving his testimony. Could hear his voice through the walls, though she couldn't make out the words. The walls were thick, designed for privacy, but human hearing was better than most species realized. The door opened. A tall, thin creature entered. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer slightly in the light. It had 4 arms, each ending in delicate fingers. Its head was elongated, with 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. "Officer Han?" the creature asked. Its voice came from a translator device, but the original language sounded like wind chimes. "Yes. I am Arbiter. I oversee this council session. We would like you to testify." Stood, "Of course, Arbiter." She followed into the council chamber. The circular room was exactly as she had seen it on her first day at the station, tiered seating rising up on all sides, hundreds of delegates from dozens of species, all of them now staring at her. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform. Minyu stood there, finishing his statement. He looked tired. When he saw enter, he gave her a small nod of encouragement. "Ambassador Minyu, you may step down," announced. "Officer Han, please take the platform." Walked to the center of the room. The platform was slightly elevated, putting her on display for all the council members to see. She stood at attention, hands behind her back, face neutral. Three eyes focused on her with an intensity that felt like physical pressure. Officer Han, we have reviewed the security footage of the incident. We have examined the evidence. We have interviewed witnesses, but we still have questions. I'm happy to answer them, Arbiter. How did you detect Representative's intent to attack? I observed physical indicators, replied. Changes in posture, muscle tension, weight distribution, eye focus. These signs suggested preparation for aggressive action. The footage shows these changes occurred in less than 0.3 seconds. You detected them and responded in that. Yes, Arbiter. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Heard the clicking, buzzing, hissing sounds of a dozen different languages all expressing the same thing. Disbelief. And the blade, continued. You caught it between two fingers, a monomolecular edge, designed to cut through organic tissue at the molecular level, yet you suffered no injury. Correct, Arbiter. I applied pressure at specific points along the blade's length. The angle and force distribution caused the blade to fracture rather than cut. You calculated this in the moment of the attack. No, Arbiter, it was instinctive based on training. Another murmur, louder this time. One delegate stood from his seat, recognized him, the warrior who had challenged her to sparring. Arbiter, I must question this testimony, said. His mandibles clicked rapidly. I have studied human physical capabilities. They are inferior to most species in this chamber. Slower reflexes, weaker musculature, fragile skeletal structure. What Officer Han describes should be impossible for a human. Three eyes turned too. You have studied human capabilities. I have reviewed available data, yes. Humans are persistence hunters. They excel at endurance, not speed or strength. Officer Han's performance contradicts all known parameters. Perhaps your data is incomplete, said quietly. Every eye in the chamber turned back to her. She maintained her calm expression, but inside she felt a small smile. They wanted to understand. Fine, she would explain. Humans evolved as hunters, she began. Not ambush predators like some species, not pack hunters with natural weapons. We chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. This required specific adaptations. She raised her hand, spreading her fingers. Bipedal locomotion. Freed our hands for tool use and weapon throwing. Humans can throw projectiles with accuracy unmatched by any other known species. We can hit moving targets at distance using only calculation and muscle memory. She lowered her hand. Endurance. We can run for hours, days if necessary. Our bodies regulate temperature through sweating, allowing sustained exertion in heat that would kill other species. We heal quickly from injuries. We can survive wounds that would be fatal to beings with more complex biology. But these are not advantages in combat, protested. Endurance does not matter in a fight that lasts seconds. True, acknowledged. But humans didn't just hunt animals, we hunted each other. For 10,000 years we developed combat techniques, martial arts, weapon systems, strategic thinking. We studied how to kill efficiently and how to prevent being killed. She paused, making eye contact with delegates around the chamber. My training began at age 6, basic self-defense. At 12, I started formal martial arts study. At 18, I entered military service. For 12 years, I have trained in combat, not simulated combat, against real enemies who wanted me dead. 12 years, said slowly. That is your entire adult life. Yes, Arbiter, and I'm not exceptional by human military standards. I'm average. There are operators with 20, 30, 40 years of combat experience. Specialists who can shoot targets at 2 kilometers. Close-quarters experts who can kill with bare hands in dozens of ways. The chamber was silent, even had no response. May I demonstrate something, Arbiter? Asked. His eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of curiosity. Demonstrate. With your permission, I'd like to show the council what human reaction speed looks like." After a brief consultation with other senior council members agreed, a security officer was asked to volunteer, stepped forward, confident in his species' natural armor and strength. "I'm going to draw my sidearm," explained to the chamber. "After I holster it, this officer will draw his weapon. I will then draw mine and aim at him before he can aim at me." This expression was skeptical, but he agreed. Both of them unloaded their weapons as a safety precaution, holstered hers on her right hip, the held his at his side. "Ready?" asked. The nodded, then without waiting he drew. His movement was fast, practiced. His weapon came up in a smooth arc towards center mass. His weapon was already aimed at his head. The chamber erupted in shocked sounds. They stared at her, his weapon still completing its draw, lowered her gun and smiled slightly. "Again," she offered. They tried 5 more times, different starting positions, different draws. Once she started with her back turned. Every time her weapon was aimed before his was. "How?" they asked, genuinely confused. "I watch your eyes," explained. "Your pupils dilate before you move, your breathing changes, small tells that indicate intention. By the time your muscles begin the draw, I've already started mine." She holstered her weapon and turned back to, "Humans are pattern recognition specialists, Arbiter. We see the signs. We calculate the outcome. We react before the threat fully develops." Was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "We have underestimated your species." "Yes," agreed simply. The assassination attempt by representative, the previous incidents with the ambassadors. You believe these were all deliberate murders? "I do, Arbiter. The pattern is clear once you look for it." "And you believe your presence prevented Ambassador Minu from suffering the same fate?" "Yes, Arbiter." His 3 eyes closed and opened slowly. "Then humanity owes you a great debt, and the Council owes you an apology. We invited your species to join us, then failed to protect your representatives from assassination." "The Council did not attempt assassination," corrected respectfully. "That was representatives' choice. But we created an environment where such attempts could succeed. No more." Turned to address the full Council. "I move for immediate investigation into all suspicious deaths during diplomatic negotiations over the past 50 years. I further move that Earth's request for FTL lane access be granted immediately, with full apologies for the delay and danger posed to their delegation." The vote was unanimous. As left the chamber, she found Minu waiting outside with a broad smile. "You did it," he said. "They're giving us everything we asked for." "They're giving us what we deserve," corrected, "what humanity earned." Down the corridor she saw a group of aliens watching her pass. They moved aside, giving her space, not in fear exactly but in respect, or perhaps caution. She had changed how they saw humanity, not as weak newcomers but as capable equals, perhaps even as beings to be careful around. It was a start. Outside the station windows, the stars continued their eternal dance. And among them, somewhere in the black, Earth turned blue and green and full of 7 billion humans who were just beginning to show the galaxy what they could do. 3 days after the council session, life had become complicated in ways she had not anticipated. The footage of her catching's blade had spread through the galactic networks faster than light could travel. Every species with communication technology had seen it. The small human security officer, standing calmly, plucking death from the air with 2 fingers. Over and over the footage played, analyzed, discussed, debated. And then someone had found the footage of her demonstration with the security officer. That spread even faster. The human who could draw faster than beings with superior reflexes. The human who read intentions before they became actions. Messages flooded into the human delegation's quarters. Job offers from private security firms. Requests for training consultations. Challenges from warriors across the galaxy who wanted to test themselves against her. Marriage proposals from species she had never heard of. Threats from allies of who blamed her for his disgrace. Ignored most of them. She was not interested in fame or fortune. She had a job to do. But the galaxy would not let her ignore it. Captain Lee Sara arrived on the fourth day, bringing a full security detail from the human fleet vessel that orbited nearby. Met her in the delegation's main conference room. Sara was older than by 15 years, with silver touching her black hair at the temples. She had scars on her hands and a way of moving that spoke of long military service. She commanded Earth's first deep space combat vessel, a destroyer that the aliens had initially dismissed as primitive. They were not dismissing it anymore. "Officer Han," Sora said, extending her hand. "Captain Lee," replied, shaking it firmly. "I watched the footage," Sora said without preamble. "Good reflexes, clean execution, textbook restraint protocol." "Thank you, Captain." "The Council has requested that I give a presentation on human military capabilities. Apparently, our new friends want to understand what they're dealing with." Sora smiled slightly. "I thought you might want to attend." "I would, Captain." The presentation was held in one of the station's larger conference halls. Representatives from 43 species attended, recognized many of them from previous encounters. The warrior, arbiter, even a few delegates, though, was notably absent. He was in custody, awaiting trial. Sara stood at the front of the room, a display screen behind her showing the blue curve of Earth against black space. "Thank you for attending," she began. "I understand there has been considerable interest in human capabilities following recent events. I'm here to provide context." The screen changed. Now it showed a human figure, rotating slowly to show all angles. "Humans evolved on a world with specific challenges," Sora explained. "Higher gravity than many inhabited worlds, extreme temperature variations. Predators evolved specifically to hunt other predators. This created selective pressures that shaped our development." The image changed to show a human running. The figure's skeleton was highlighted, showing the unique structure of leg bones and hip joints. "Our bipedal locomotion is inefficient for speed, but exceptional for endurance. A trained human can run 100 kilometers without stopping. Some exceptional individuals have run more than twice that distance. We can maintain pursuit of prey for days." A delegate raised a tentacle. "But this is known, persistence hunting. How does it relate to combat?" "Because," Sora replied, "it taught us patience. Humans will pursue objectives long after other species would abandon them. We don't give up. We don't surrender. If you're a human's enemy, you remain a human's enemy until one of you is dead or the human decides otherwise." The screen shifted again. Now it showed historical footage, battles from Earth's past, trenches and tanks and soldiers fighting through mud and blood. "For our entire recorded history, humans have been at war, with nature, with animals, with each other. We developed weapons as soon as we could grip stones. We created martial arts to kill efficiently without weapons. We built empires and destroyed them. We fought wars that killed millions and then rebuilt and fought again." The images scrolled past: ancient warriors, medieval knights, modern soldiers, the progression of human conflict across. "Other species reached the stars peacefully," Sora continued. "They developed cooperation, harmony, universal understanding. Humans reached the stars while still fighting each other. Our first satellite was a weapon platform. Our first space station included military research. We explored the solar system while planning how to fight wars in zero gravity." A delegate, a tall avian creature named, spoke up. "Captain Lee, are you suggesting humans are inherently violent?" "No," Sora replied. "I'm suggesting we're inherently competitive. We challenge ourselves. We test our limits. We seek conflict as a way to improve. Not because we enjoy death, but because we enjoy overcoming challenges. She gestured to who stood near the back of the room. Officer Han didn't catch that blade because she was born superior to representative. She caught it because she has spent 20 years training to do exactly that. 20 years of practice, of failure, of learning from mistakes, of pushing herself beyond comfortable limits. The screen changed one final time. Now it showed data, charts and graphs that illustrated human performance capabilities. The average human reaction time is 0.25 seconds, Sora explained. But that's civilian average. Trained military personnel average 0.15 seconds. Elite operators can achieve 0.1 seconds or less. This is not biology. This is training. She pulled up another chart. Human grip strength averages 50 kilograms of force, but trained individuals can exert over 100 kilograms. Again, training. Pain tolerance, endurance, strategic thinking, pattern recognition, tool use, adaptability. Each word brought up a new chart. In every category, trained humans exceed our biological baseline by significant margins. We are the only known species that systematically trains ourselves to exceed our natural limitations. Stood Captain Lee, with respect, this still does not explain Officer Han's performance. Even with training, the speed she demonstrated should be impossible. Sora smiled. Delegate, you offered Officer Han a sparring challenge, correct? I did, she declined. Not because she feared losing, because she was on duty, but I'm not on duty. Sora stepped away from the display. I accept your challenge. The room went silent. His crystalline exoskeleton reflected the lights in sharp patterns. He was 7 feet tall, with natural armor and mandibles that could crush steel. Sora was 5 feet 7 inches, dressed in a standard uniform with no visible weapons. You wish to spar with me? Asked carefully. If you still want to see how human security compares to warriors, yes. They moved to an open area of the conference hall. Delegates formed a circle around them, giving space. Assumed a fighting stance that looked like something between a wrestler's crouch and a praying mantis's attack pose. Sora stood relaxed, hands at her sides. Ready? Arbiter asked, acting as referee. Both fighters nodded. Begin. Launched forward with speed that blurred the eye. His armored fist drove toward Sora's head with enough force to crack bone. Sora wasn't there. She had, with minimal movement, just enough to let the fist pass. Her hand touched his extended arm. Not a strike, just a touch. But it redirected his momentum. His own force carried him forward off balance. Sora's foot swept his leading leg, went down hard, his exoskeleton clattering against the floor. He rolled immediately, coming up defensive. His mandibles clicked in what might have been respect or frustration. They engaged again, and again, and again. Each time attacked with power and speed. Each time Sora redirected, evaded, or absorbed the force. She never struck to injure. She didn't need to. She controlled the fight through superior technique and timing. After the 5th exchange left on his back again, he raised a hand in surrender. Enough, he said, breathing hard. I understand now. Sora offered her hand and helped him up. You're strong and fast, she told him, but you fight like someone who has always relied on natural advantages. Humans don't have those advantages. We had to learn technique. His mandibles clicked slowly. You make me feel like a hatchling fighting a veteran. You fight like a warrior, Sora corrected. I fight like a soldier. There's a difference. Warriors seek honor and victory. Soldiers seek survival and mission completion. She turned to address the assembled delegates. This is what I wanted you to understand. Humans are not the strongest species. We're not the fastest. We don't have natural weapons or armor. But we have spent 10,000 years learning how to win fights anyway, how to turn weakness into strength, how to use an opponent's advantages against them. The delegate spoke up. Captain Lee, my species recognized this about humans from the beginning. We are also persistent hunters in our way. We hunt from the sky while you hunt from the ground. We understood what you were immediately. Then why didn't you warn the council? Someone asked. Because some lessons must be learned firsthand, replied. She looked at with what might have been approval. Besides, humanity deserves the chance to show what they can do. They have earned their place here. Over the following weeks, things changed on the station. Delegates who had ignored now nodded in respect when they passed. Some even bowed. The human delegation received better quarters, better meeting times, better consideration in negotiations. Earth's position in the galactic community shifted. No longer newcomers to be dismissed. Now they were a power to be considered carefully. Ambassador Minyu leveraged the new dynamic expertly. Trade agreements were finalized. Technology exchanges were negotiated. Defense pacts were proposed. Meanwhile, Prime stood trial for attempted assassination and conspiracy to commit murder in 3 previous incidents. The evidence was overwhelming. The council found him guilty and sentenced him to life imprisonment on a neutral world. On his final day at the station, requested to speak with, she agreed, meeting him in a secure interview room. He sat across from her, his wrists bound, looking smaller somehow without his diplomatic robes. His yellow eyes studied her with an intensity that made her think of a scientist examining an unexpected result. "I have one question," he said finally. "How did you catch the blade? I have replayed the moment in my mind 1,000 times. I cannot understand how you saw it, how you moved in time, how you knew." Was quiet for a moment, then she answered honestly. "I saw you reach for the ring 3 seconds before you activated it. I saw your weight shift toward the ambassador. I saw your eyes focus on his neck. You told me you were going to attack. I just listened. But my species evolved to move faster than yours. Speed doesn't matter if I know what you're going to do before you do it. You practiced that attack many times, didn't you? Until it became instinct, automatic." Nodded slowly. "That made you predictable," explained. "Humans have a saying, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. You had a perfect plan, but you had never faced an opponent who could read your intentions and counter them before you even started moving. We underestimated you," said quietly. "Yes, everyone did." "Will you underestimate me?" he asked. Thought about that. About the delegates who now watched her with caution. About the respect that humanity had earned not through aggression but through demonstrated capability. "No," she said finally. "Humans don't underestimate opponents. That's why we survive." 6 months later, stood in a training hall on the station, now designated for Earth's diplomatic security program. 15 new recruits from various human military services stood at attention before her. They were young, eager, ready to prove themselves. She recognized that look. She had worn it once. "You're here because humanity needs protection in an alien environment," she told them. "The galaxy is not hostile, but it's not entirely friendly either. There will be beings who test you, who challenge you, who assume you're weak because you're human." She walked along the line, making eye contact with each recruit. "Let them assume, let them underestimate, let them think we're soft, slow, weak, primitive." She stopped in front of them. "And then show them what humanity really is. Show them persistence, adaptability, technique, intelligence. Show them that we didn't claw our way to the top of Earth's food chain through luck. But remember this," her voice hardened. "You represent all of humanity out here. Every action you take reflects on 7 billion people. So be professional, be courteous, be respectful, seek peace whenever possible." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But if someone tries to hurt an ambassador under your protection, if someone threatens human lives, if someone mistakes restraint for weakness and pushes too far," her eyes held each of theirs in turn, "then show them why humans are apex predators. Show them once. Make sure they learn. and make sure they remember. The recruits stood, understanding dawning in their eyes. Outside the windows, the galaxy turned. Millions of stars, billions of worlds, countless species all learning a new truth. Humanity had arrived, peaceful but not harmless, patient but not passive, small but not weak. And they would not be dismissed again.